Hi, today we're here with Daniel Burton, who is co-founder of Educated by Nature, and he is also a nature connection mentor. We'd like to have a little chat today, to explore what you do at Educated by Nature, but also see the synergies in the work that you do and the work that we do at Mind the Change. So maybe a good place to start would be to explain a little bit about what you do and Educated by Nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So Educated by Nature was founded in 2014 by myself and my colleague Trudy Bennett. We were primary school teachers working with upper primary students, and we took learning outside. So we embraced nature pedagogy and outdoor classrooms and saw the incredible benefit of connecting children to the natural world and bringing learning and nature together. Some of the children we were working with were children who were living with ADHD, they were on the autism spectrum, and had a raft of alternative needs. And what we found was when we took children outdoors and did learning outdoors, connected them with nature, they blossomed. They grew within themselves. And a lot of the barriers that got in the way from their additional needs kind of dissolved away. So we thought, okay, there's something here with that. So we left teaching and started up Educated by Nature, and now our passion is for connecting children with nature, with the outdoors, and being that, bridge to explore nature and give them the opportunity to take risk, explore tools, play with things like fire and cubby building, and really see the benefits of nature to their health and well-being, mentally, cognitively, emotionally. Our byline is resilience through connection.
For Mind the Change, it's often, the arts, whether it's performing arts, visual arts, other forms of creative arts. And I guess that's very similar with your learning experience with Educated by Nature. You're removing yourself from a classroom and you're putting yourself into a nature environment. And I could see how that could really benefit the older adults in our community, and especially those living with dementia, from a point of view of it changes your norm. We're very used to being indoors a lot more when we get older, and especially if we have a condition like dementia, where we're often experiencing a lot more limitations. But if you're in a different environment, I guess you then challenge those risks and limitations and say, well, do they still exist in the same way?
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the word risk, because the work that we do here at Educated by Nature and the work that you do at Mind the Change, it's about providing opportunities for risk. When we take risk, and whether that risk be climbing a tree, using a saw or a sharp knife, exploring a creative venture like doing an artwork, taking photos or being in a performance, those risks open up our creativity, and they also open up pathways in the brain. So the whole fight or flight response that our body has in times of heightened awareness or heightened stimulation actually open our minds up to learn. They open pathways for learning to actually get in. That's why nature is an awesome platform or environment to do teaching in, to do learning in, because children come to that environment and they're almost more open, more wired to learn. And I can imagine that it's the same with our older adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not only opportunities to learn, but opportunities for connection and communication. And I feel like sometimes when we're removed from our normal environment and we're, experiencing something new, something of maybe a little bit more high risk, we're more open to connect with others because we we're seeking support and validation in that moment. Whereas if I'm just doing the same thing day in, day out, I kind of get used to where my safety boundaries are, and I don't really take a risk because I know what is expected and what people expect of me.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm placed in a different situation, suddenly I don't know what those boundaries are. And so if I take a step in this direction and someone's supporting me, and I do, I think that's when we see, for yourselves, you see, students blossom, and we see people living with dementia blossom because, that risk has been taken, but because it was uncharted almost waters or unknown territory, it kind of is allowed to happen naturally.
Yeah, so the ability to make mistakes is actually okay. So, and that's the same for children as it is for adults, as it is for people living with memory loss and dementia, in that when we say mistakes are okay, when we allow risk-taking, and as you said there, like with support as well, when there's a mentor or someone there who's giving some support, then we're more likely to take those risks, to move out of our comfort zone. And I think when we're working with elements of nature, we're more free to try out new things as well. I think, first of all, I think we need to step back from our understanding of nature, because I think when we talk about nature, sometimes we have the danger of thinking, nature is national parks, it's Uluru, it's the Ningaloo Reef. Nature is outdoors. I mean, initially we are nature,
Yes.
So to connect with nature also means to connect with ourselves. But nature can be simply your backyard. Even if it's a balcony or an outdoor area with some plants in it, that's nature.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being anywhere that you can see the sky.
Yeah.
And then, so I think first of all we need to frame, okay, what are the spaces that we're using? And how can we support our older adults to engage in those spaces more? The other thing would be looking at your local area, because suburbs have beautiful natural spaces.
Yeah.
Even if they're just pocket parks at the end of the street, even if they're nature reserves, finding those places, going for a walk, and opening up awareness to notice those details.
Yeah.
We here at Educated by Nature, we explore a process called the sit spot.
Yes.
And it's inspired by the work of the H. Shields Institute over in America. And the idea is it's a nature connection routine. You have a space where you go and you sit, hence the name Sit Spot, and you spend at least 5 minutes, we would say at least 20 minutes to half an hour.
Yep.
If you can go there every day, perfect. And essentially you can do a sense meditation, couple of breaths, notice where your body is, where your legs are touching the ground, the seat that you're sitting on, and then notice the things around you. Look at the things you can hear, see, smell, taste even, like was it your breakfast or that cup of tea that you've just drank that's still in your mouth, and then what do you notice and feel and hear. Connecting with the sounds around you grounds you in that space. Even having that practice as a daily practice could be at the same time of day, which is beautiful because then you start to notice, well, it might be the same birds that come to that space every day, or it might be the colour of the sun at that point in the day. The other aspect of is, can you go there at different times of the day and then notice the changes? So it might be the temperature, where the wind's coming from, and it just taps us into what the environment is doing, grounds us, and opens up our mental space and mental capacity heaps. So a sit spot, I think, would be a perfect first step. And then what is the journey to that sit spot? Is it on our balcony? Is it on our front doorstep? Is it in our backyard? Is it down at the local park? How do we get there?
Yeah.
Can we walk to that space?
Yep.
Even if we're in a wheelchair, can we be supported to get there in a way that makes the journey important as well? What do we notice along the way on that journey?
Yes. Often we're, I guess, blindsided by our endpoint and we don't notice the journey. And I feel we really need to, especially when we're looking at people who are living with dementia, we need to really take note of that, the process. It's often not always the sole focus is the end point. It's about the process, and like you say, getting there is a part of that process. And I think that would be a beautiful thing to do, even if you're living at home, or if you're living in a care home. That would be something you could do with family, a support worker, a carer. I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Yeah, and I think the opportunity there as well for cross-generational connection is really exciting. And I bring this up because I had an experience working with a school recently, a class of Year 1 students, and we were down in a local pocket park, which was near the school, but also near a nursing home. And at one of our first sessions, some residents of the nursing home came walking through, a couple in wheelchairs, a couple walking by themselves. They had a few support workers with them. Their initial reactions to seeing the kids climbing trees was, what are those kids doing in the trees? But then conversations happened, and the kids explained what they were doing and brought these little bugs up that they'd found. And you saw the eyes of both the older people and the younger people just explode with excitement.
Oh, wow.
And then the next week we were back there and they came back. Obviously this was a regular day walk that they went on, but we then became a new element of their walk, and their demeanour changed when they saw the kids playing in nature. So if the sit spot is something that you're doing, then you can share that sit spot with grandchildren, with your own children, with children in the neighbourhood. My ideal would be that we have more kids out on streets and in parks with their families, and then if we've got older people joining them, we actually build community, and we're not stuck indoors and segregated and siloed. Get your grandchildren to help you find the place. And then have that connection of, oh, did you see that there? Oh, I noticed this there. And then we bring back in that element of story across the generations.
Yeah, I think storytelling is something that's really important. It's something that is, it goes back through time, and it's something that connects us to who we are as a person. You can tell stories about yourself, you can tell stories about your life, you can tell stories about what you've just done like 5 minutes ago. And I think allowing someone to story tell, even if sometimes the details get a little muddled or words are interchanged with different words, allowing that storytelling process is so crucial for communication, for allowing someone to feel heard and listened to and validated as a person. And I feel like that is important to create, like you say, community. You don't have community if people aren't listening to one another. And creating something as beautiful as a sit spot with like you say, a grandparent or an older person in your life will enable so much community from that one little moment. And if that moment only happens once a week or once a fortnight, it then gives people something to look forward to. And to cherish. And okay, the memories from one sit spot to the next may not be consistent or may not be remembered per se, but the connection will, and the emotions associated with that will. And I think that is just a beautiful example. So thank you, and I hope, I've got 1,001 things whizzing around in my head now. I hope it's inspired everybody out there who's watching, because for me as an artist, I go, wow, you could take painting to a sit spot, you could take poetry to a sit spot, you could take a performance or an element of play to a sit spot and allow that sit spot to generate your creativity. And in these uncertain times, that is something that you can do by yourself, with the people in your home, with those closest to you, and you don't need a lot to be able to do that.
Just yourself. Essentially.
And you could create in the sand, you could create in the grass, you could create with, like you were saying, what you collect, or wow, I'm inspired.
And it's reminded me of one of my favourite quotes about play. And the saying goes, you don't stop playing because you grow old, You grow old because you stop playing.
Yes.
And I think we need to remember that element of play and joy.
Yes.
No matter what age we are,
Absolutely.
no matter what our background, no matter what our current situation, play is crucial.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And nature is an excellent support for play.
Yeah, I guess it opens the doors to what we refer to as age-appropriate play.
Totally.
You know, often people think of play, like you've just said, is something for children or small people to do, and it really isn't. You know, you can play at any age, but it just needs to be age-appropriate, and nature allows that age-appropriateness to take place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. If you would like any more information about Educated by Nature, we'll pop some details probably down here somewhere so that you can get in touch. Otherwise, I hope the conversation that we've had today has inspired you, as it has myself. So if you see me next and we're going outside, you have this man to blame. But thank you so much, Daniel. Your work and what you do and your enthusiasm and passion is infectious. I'm certainly buzzing. And I hope that translates to everyone out there. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, have
Thanks
a great
very
day,
much.
guys.
Bye.